The mechanic pushed open the rusty hangar door, and a cold draft rushed past him, making the edges of his jacket flap against his arms. His eyes adjusted to the dim light, and then he saw it, a ship unlike anything he had ever laid eyes on. Its hull shimmered with colors that seemed to shift and ripple like liquid metal, and sparks danced along its surface as if the ship were breathing. The air around it hummed with energy so strong it made his hair stand on end. He stepped closer, his boots clanging against the metal floor, and the ship pulsed in response, sending waves of vibration through the ground. He reached out a hand to touch it, and the moment his fingers brushed the hull, it shivered violently, as though startled by his presence. He pulled back, startled, and a thin trail of sparks traced the line where he had touched it. His heart pounded in his chest, and a thrill ran through him. He knew instantly this was not a ship to be tamed easily. This was a creature, a living machine, with a mind of its own. The mechanic circled its slowly, eyes scanning every curve, every glowing line, and the strange symbols etched along its body that seemed to move and twist when he blinked. As he studied it, he noticed small panels opening and closing on their own, revealing intricate machinery that defied all logic. His mind raced, trying to understand the engineering and the technology, and somewhere deep inside him, he knew this was beyond human comprehension. The ship let out a low, vibrating hum that reverberated through his chest, almost like a growl, and he realized it was aware of him. It was judging him, testing him. He felt fear and excitement mix into a strange cocktail that made his fingers itch to reach out again. He could hear the distant echoes of other mechanics warning him of danger, and yet every instinct in his body urged him forward. He stepped closer, feeling the floor vibrate under his boots, and he ran his hands over the hull, marveling at the cold smoothness that seemed alive under his touch. The lights along its edge flickered as if acknowledging his presence, and then the ship jerked slightly, causing a gust of energy to rush past him, knocking him off balance. He laughed out loud, a mixture of fear and joy flooding his chest. He knew that whatever this ship was, it was unlike anything anyone had ever seen, and he knew that if he could just find a way to bond with it, it would change his life forever. The mechanic climbed into the cockpit, his hands shaking. As he brushed against the strange controls, the ship vibrated beneath him, humming with energy, as if it recognized his presence. He felt a pulse of heat surge through the seat into his body, and a flicker of light danced across the panels in front of him. He pressed a lever tentatively, and the ship jolted violently, throwing him against the console. He scrambled to grip the controls, his heart racing as the ship twisted and shivered under his touch. Sparks flew from the edges of the panels, and the hum grew louder, resonating in his chest like a living heartbeat. He realized instantly that this was no ordinary machine. It responded to his every movement as if it could read his thoughts. It tilted sharply to the side, sending his stomach lurching, and then it spun in a wild arc that made the hangar walls blur past. He clutched the seat, feeling both terrified and exhilarated. The holographic displays flickered and shifted, showing alien symbols and patterns that made no sense yet somehow seemed familiar. His fingers hovered over the controls, unsure if he should fight the ship or let it guide him. The ship jerked again, as if testing his courage, and he felt a spark of connection in that moment, understanding that the ship was alive, and it was curious about him. His breath came in short gasps, and a laugh escaped him, a mix of fear and wonder, as he realized he had never felt anything like this. The cockpit glowed with shifting lights and energy pulses that wrapped around him, and he understood that this was only the beginning. The ship was waiting for him to prove himself, to understand it, to become worthy of its trust. He leaned forward, his eyes wide, and a thrill ran through him, knowing that the first flight had already changed everything, and the adventure that lay ahead would challenge every limit he had ever known. The mechanic gripped the controls as the ship shot forward, twisting and spinning in ways that made the hangar blur around him. He felt the force push him into the seat, and his stomach flipped with every sudden lurch. The stars outside became streaks of light, and the ground rushed toward him before the ship jerked upward, narrowly avoiding a collision. Sparks flew from the hull, and the hum of energy grew into a roar that vibrated through his bones. He tried to adjust the controls, but every movement seemed to provoke the ship into wilder maneuvers. It twisted like a living creature, dodging imaginary obstacles and diving in impossible arcs. The mechanic laughed and screamed at the same time, adrenaline surging through him. His mind raced, trying to anticipate the ship's next move, and he realized that for the first time, he was not controlling the machine. It was guiding him, testing him, pushing him beyond every limit. He felt a strange connection with the ship, understanding its intentions in a way that defied reason. The cockpit glowed with shifting alien symbols and pulses of light that danced across his vision, and he knew that this flight would be remembered forever. It was chaos, it was beauty, it was fear and thrill all at once, and the mechanic clung to the seat, knowing that nothing in his life would ever be the same again. The ship suddenly lurched forward, faster than the mechanic could comprehend, and the hangar walls disappeared behind him. Stars stretched into long streaks of light as the vessel twisted and spun in ways that defied logic. His hands shook on the controls, but the ship seemed to resist, every command jerking violently in response to his touch. It dove toward the ground and then shot upward, narrowly missing jagged cliffs and floating debris. The mechanic gasped as the wind rushed past the cockpit, the hum of energy vibrating in his chest like a living heartbeat. Sparks of blue and green danced along the hull, and the ship shivered as if laughing at his fear. He realized with a jolt that it was not just resisting him, it was teaching him, testing his reflexes and his courage. The sky became a blur, and he felt weightless and terrified as the ship twisted through clouds of energy that crackled like fire. Lightning arced across the atmosphere, illuminating the alien symbols on the hull, and he understood that the vessel was alive in ways he could barely imagine. Each sudden jerk and dive was a lesson, each spin and burst of speed a challenge to prove himself. The mechanic laughed nervously, a sound half fear, half exhilaration, as he surrendered to the chaos, and in that surrender he felt a strange thrill of connection. The ship had taken control, and yet it had chosen him to ride with it, to learn from it, to survive with it, and he knew that nothing in the universe would ever feel the same again. The ship slowed, just enough for the mechanic to catch his breath, but the hum of energy still pulsed around him, vibrating in his chest like a heartbeat. It projected shimmering symbols into the cockpit, lights twisting and turning, forming patterns that seemed almost alive. He leaned closer, trying to decipher the meaning, but the symbols shifted before his eyes like they were responding to his thoughts. He reached out and a panel opened, revealing a small holographic map of uncharted worlds glowing in colors. He had never seen. The mechanic felt a thrill and a chill at the same time as he realized the ship was showing him places no human had ever set foot. It was not speaking with words but with movement, with light, with energy, and he understood that. Every twist, every pulse was a message. He followed its cues, adjusting the controls, instinctively feeling the rhythm of its intentions. The cockpit shimmered with alien energy, and he felt a strange connection, like he was part of something far greater than himself. The ship tilted gently and pulsed in a way that felt like encouragement, and he laughed in disbelief, marveling at the intelligence and mischief within this wild, uncontrollable vessel. He knew in that moment that the adventure ahead was no longer just about surviving. It was about understanding, communicating, and learning from a being that defied all reason. The mechanic guided the ship toward a small moon glowing faintly in the distance, hoping to finally rest and study the vessel more closely. But the moment he attempted to lower the landing gears, the ship shivered violently, throwing him against the console. Sparks flew from the edges, and the cockpit lights flickered like warning signals. He gritted his teeth and adjusted the controls again, but the ship twisted and spun, as if mocking his efforts. Each movement he tried was met with resistance, and sudden bursts of speed that sent him tumbling in zero gravity. He gasped as he realized the ship was not allowing a simple landing. It was testing him, testing his patience, his skill, and his understanding. The surface of the moon rushed toward them, and he braced himself for impact. But the ship jerked violently upward, narrowly avoiding a jagged cliff and sending him sliding across the seat. He laughed and shouted, feeling both terrified and exhilarated. The controls pulsed under his hands, and the alien symbols along the panels glowed brighter in response to his every motion. The mechanic realized that to land he had to become part of the ship, not fight against it. He closed his eyes and let the ship guide him, feeling its rhythm and pulse through his veins. Each twist and tilt seemed intentional, as if it were teaching him a secret dance of balance and trust. Sparks of energy leapt from the hole, brushing against his face and hair, as the cockpit filled with a soft glow that felt alive. He leaned forward, sensing the patterns in its movements, predicting the twists and turns almost before they happened. Slowly, the ship descended, gliding above the moon's surface as if floating on invisible currents. He felt a thrill of triumph, mixed with awe, as he realized the landing was not his accomplishment alone. It was a shared understanding, a bond formed in chaos and trust. He breathed deeply, feeling the energy of the ship humming through the floor panels, and he knew that every future adventure would demand the same surrender, the same patience, and the same willingness to listen to a creature that was as wild as it was intelligent. The mechanic stepped back from the controls, his heart racing, and a smile of disbelief and wonder spread across his face as he looked at the alien vessel, now quiet and seemingly proud of their first lesson together. The warning lights flared suddenly, bathing the cockpit in a harsh glow, and the mechanic felt the ship tense beneath him. As if sensing a threat before he could see it, the stars ahead shifted, and dark shapes emerged from the void. Sleek pirate vessels closing in fast. He barely had time to react before beams of energy tore through the space around them, sending shockwaves rippling across the hull. The mechanic shouted and reached for the controls, but the ship moved first, twisting sharply and diving into open space with terrifying speed. The pirate fire missed by inches, and the ship surged forward like a living predator. Sparks and glowing trails streamed behind them as the vessel weaved through the incoming attacks. The mechanic felt the rhythm again, that strange pulse guiding his hands, and he followed it. Without hesitation, the ship rolled and spun, dodging blasts that would have destroyed any ordinary craft. Then, without warning, panels along the hull opened, and bursts of unfamiliar energy erupted, striking the pirate ships with blinding force. One vessel shattered into fragments, another spiraled out of control, disappearing into the darkness. The mechanic stared in shock, his breath caught in his chest as he realized the ship was protecting him, choosing him. The remaining pirates hesitated, and the ship seized at the moment, surging forward with a roar of energy that sent them scattering into the void. Silence returned, slowly broken only by the low, satisfied hum of the ship. The mechanic slumped back in the seat, heart pounding, and laughter burst from his chest, raw and breathless. He understood now that this wild, uncontrollable ship was not just a machine or a mystery. It was an ally, a guardian, and perhaps something far more dangerous than anything chasing them through the stars. The ship slowed after the battle, drifting toward a distant planet. Wrapped in shimmering lights, the mechanic watched in silence as strange symbols glowed across the cockpit, brighter than ever before, guiding them toward a hidden valley carved deep into the surface. The ship descended gently, unlike before, as if this place demanded respect. He stepped out onto alien ground, feeling the hum of energy beneath his boots. The air shimmered, and a massive structure emerged from the shadows, towering over him, its walls alive with glowing patterns that matched the ship's own markings. He realized with a surge of understanding that this place was connected to the ship, born from the same intelligence, the same purpose. The vessel pulsed behind him, urging him forward, and as he entered the structure, visions flooded his mind of ancient builders fleeing destruction, sending living ships into the stars, searching for partners, not masters. The mechanic felt his breath catch as he understood the truth. The ship had not been uncontrollable. It had been searching, testing, waiting for someone willing to listen. The structure glowed warmly, as if welcoming him, and he felt a deep sense of belonging settle into his chest. He turned back toward the ship, his ship now, knowing that everything he thought he understood about machines, the universe, and himself had changed forever. The mechanic returned to the ship with steady steps, feeling a calm certainty he had never known before. The cockpit responded instantly, lights glowing softly. As if recognizing his resolve, he took his seat, and the ship lifted smoothly from the alien surface. No resistance, no chaos, only perfect harmony. Stars unfolded ahead of them, vast and endless, and the mechanic felt a smile spread across his face. The wild, uncontrollable vessel moved, like an extension of his own thoughts, responding to subtle shifts of intent rather than force. They surged into deep space, leaving the hidden world behind, carrying its ancient purpose forward together. The mechanic no longer saw himself as a simple repairman or buyer of broken machines. He was a chosen partner, a traveler bound to a living ship that had waited across ages for someone like him. As galaxies drifted past the cockpit windows, the ship pulsed with quiet pride and anticipation. The future stretched before them, filled with danger, discovery, and wonder. But there was no fear now, only excitement and trust. The mechanic leaned back, listening to the steady hum that matched his heartbeat, and knew that whatever waited in the dark between stars, they would face it together, human and ship-bound by understanding, moving freely toward adventures no one else would ever dare to imagine.